I started question one about how I got both. Thinks that's hard. I should be. Okay. Alrighty, let anybody in as needed. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so grammar lesson 17 due last night. That has been checked. I will post a key later as usual. Some people are definitely confused by this. I found this lesson difficult. Difficult would be an object complement, right? Certain verbs and sentences can take an object complement, has a certain sound to the sentence. I think it has a nice, thoughtful, intellectual sound. It's a good sentence to be able to write using an object complement. So you want to be able to recognize that. But no big deal if that confused you. Just check out the key. I want to talk briefly about the videos you guys watched, and then we will discuss the pulley. My plan was to try to do some breakout groups to look at a couple more poems in the chapter, but talking about one poem and doing that with two others by the time we get started just does not work with these short bells. So that ended up being homework, and I did update the agenda here. So we can do discussion questions on the next two poems in the chapter, which are one Italian Petrarchan sonnet and one we call it Shakespearean or English sonnet. So I'll show you those in the book. Let's real quickly go over the vocab since we weren't in yesterday. It's lesson 8. If you want to grab your books. Vocab books. You should be shuffling around getting your vocab book. I'll read through the words for you while you're shuffling. So we have this week and next: pander, otiose, puerile, aleatory, asperity, renunciation, unimpeachable, inveigh, lionize, allay, vitiate, recalcitrant, exegesis, ameliorate, and profligate. Kind of difficult words. Come on, my screen share. In a participatory enough mood that somebody would like to read their responses from the first one. Okay, I'll do it myself then. You're saving your energy for discussing this poem, right? Because you're gonna have all kinds of thoughts and you're gonna fearlessly analyze it. Okay, good. Number one, we should have otiose, unimpeachable, puerile, recalcitrant, and renunciation. Number two, profligate, asperity, exegesis, inveigh, and ameliorate. And three, lionized, vitiated, pandered, aleatory, and allay. Over on roots, prefixes, and suffixes real fast. So mortify would mean to humiliate. Convivial means pertaining to entertainment or feasting. Prenatal, preceding birth, like before birth. D, nascent means coming into existence or emerging. E, vivify is to bring life to. And vivid, that word we always use to describe imagery, is bright or clear. Person born in a country is native to that country. And to cut apart, sect, mean to cut apart. Vivisection would mean to cut into something that's alive. Mortician obviously deals with the dead. And there's other words like vivacious, revive, survive, etc., etc. All right, let's grab those Perrine books and get into pattern. While you were doing that and accessing the work that you did, please access the stuff that you did on the pulley while I'm talking here. So we're having a little bit of trouble just kind of getting in last bell to kind of really understanding the ideas of kind of these generalizations about different types of structure, or what they call pattern here, same thing. A lot of this is different terms for the same things. So in her videos, Miss Troutman, I think is her name, she defines it all within two broad categories, right? Closed and open. And whereas the book talks about continuous form, stanzaic form, and fixed form. So what the deal is, fixed means the same thing as closed, okay? Fixed, closed, right, means strict. And also traditional, right? So a sonnet, a villanelle, a haiku, a ballad, those things have rules about rhyme and rhythm and length, right, that are pretty set. And it's like fitting your thoughts into a puzzle, you know, like the diagram's already there, right? It's kind of a whole different way of writing a poem. That's fixed or closed. Within the realm of what we would call open, we would have continuous and stanzaic, as the book puts it, okay? So it's a spectrum, right? Because you can do whatever you want. Anybody can do whatever they want when they write, as Foster says, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you get some, you know, intriguing thoughts. But the difference between, can anybody explain the difference between what we would call continuous and stanzaic, with all under the umbrella of what we would call open, as in not closed or fixed? What's the difference between continuous and stanzaic? It was on page 900. I can't turn there. Well,
I can
go ahead. Oh. Somebody's talking. Yay.
Closed or stanzaic or whatever follows.
Well, that's two different things. Closed is like a whole set form. Okay.
Okay.
So stanzaic is less strict than that. But what does it still have?
Well, I was gonna say that they follow a traditional pattern.
Not stanzaic. Not necessarily.
Okay. Oh gosh.
Yeah, so
I'm really confused.
I know, it is confusing. What's confusing is these terms overlap. So again, I'm trying to, in the video, she uses these two general umbrellas, right? Closed and open, right? So closed is what it is. Same thing as fixed or traditional. Closed, fixed, traditional, that means sonnets, villanelles, you know, those things that are very, you know, everything about them is defined, right? And we scale back a little bit from that, under the umbrella of what we might call open, we have both stanzaic and then continuous. So continuous, that's when the poet does kind of whatever he or she wants, right? They might have some rhyme, they might have some rhythm, it might repeat sometimes, but it's not organized into, I mean, what word obviously do you see in the word stanzaic?
Stanzas.
Yes, it has stanzas, okay? And if we say stanzas, then at least to some degree, we're talking about groups of lines that have some uniformity in either rhyme or rhythm or both, right? So we look at the pulley, it looks like an extremely organized, strict poem in its shape, mostly in its rhythm, and certainly in its rhyme, right? But does that have a name? Like, is that a sonnet or something else? No, it's not. Now, you might not know that because you don't know all these technical things about poetry. And you don't have to. The AP test has been de-stressing that in recent years. So don't get intimidated and think like all these other terms I'm throwing around. I don't have a great knowledge of those either. I don't think it's terribly important. And I'll look it up when I see one to kind of remind myself what a villanelle is or something. And I know very well what a sonnet is. And I think it is worth understanding exactly how that works, because it's almost for sure that one of the 3 or 4 places that you're going to see a poem in the AP test, you're going to see a sonnet. Okay, so and I think the nature of the way those poems work dictates how the ideas are organized. That is, it's going to be organized into 4-4-4-2 or 8 and 6. And if you know that, you're going to be able to interpret the poem easier because you know how to look at it in chunks, even though it's not divided visibly into stanzas. Okay, but back to the pulley. So it's divided into 4 stanzas. They are all in what ways is this uniform besides the fact that we have 4 relatively similar looking stanzas? What are some specifics that give it some uniformity, even though it's not a fixed traditional form?
I'm confused. What are you? So, are you talking about closed or open?
I'm talking about the pulley. specifically?
Oh,
If I didn't make that clear, sorry.
stanzaic?
It is stanzaic, but so what I'm asking is specifically, this isn't one of our questions we did, specifically what things do you see that make those stanzas pretty uniform? A pretty uniform stanzaic poem, even though it's not technically a fixed poem, which would
They all have like 5 lines.
good. What else?
The first, third, and fifth line, they all rhyme with each other, and the second and fourth line rhyme.
Yes, good. Who's talking there? Who said that? Thank you, Sophia. It's really noisy outside for some reason. I don't know what's going on. What's going on out there? Are they doing the yay for you thing? That must be the yay for you thing. PBS. It's got to be. Yeah. I think they're doing the PBS thing. It's like some kind of parade out in the hall. Yeah. Miss Davis just walked by dancing. None for you. You guys suck. Sorry. I gotta do one of those again sometime soon. All right. So what did Sophia just point out? She said the first, third, and fifth line rhyme, and the second and fourth line rhyme. Okay. Well, what does that mean? What if you figured out a way that you were going to explain how form and pattern connect to meaning because you're writing an essay about this poem? You would say, well, the rhyme scheme is a very uniform what? Each stanza is what? What are the letters?
A, B, A, B, A.
Good. A, B, A, B, A. The way that's kind of different, even though it's very strict and repetitive, is that it would be much more common to have A, B, A, B, you know, like in a sonnet, and then have another A, B, A, B. But for some reason, he decides to go A, B, A, B, A, which creates a different feel and a structure at each stanza that hopefully we can connect back to meaning. And that's a bit of a stretch sometimes. You know, how often can you really talk about the form and pattern of a poem and connect that to meaning, as in the form and the pattern strengthen and help get across the meaning to the reader if you take a close enough look at it. If you can do that, that's awesome. I don't think an essay would ever ask you to do that and not give you a choice. But if it's there and you can figure out a way to do it, then that is impressive. Okay, but it can be a stretch. I don't think it is here, though. I think there's something to it. Let's go to the questions here. So the words riches, treasure, jewel, and gifts that are mentioned kind of throughout the poem, right, are all referring to things that Herbert depicts God deciding to give to man, to humans, although holding one thing back, right? But they are not material riches, right? It's not the same thing. They are what? List the things that God gives and one thing that he doesn't, and then let's kind of generalize what those are, since they're not actually material riches.
Strength, beauty, wisdom, honor, pleasure.
Good, but not
Rest.
good. Now, what are all those things?
They're like virtues and good, honorable things.
Mm-hmm. Qualities as mostly positive aspects of human nature that make life pleasurable in a philosophical, mental, emotional way, right? Things that make existence pleasant. But then, and did we say what he holds back? You said rest. Okay, so what does he mean by rest? I mean, Herbert's not saying that God relented on or held back on giving us the ability to sleep. We sleep literally, right? So what do you think is meant in a more broad sense by not giving us rest?
Like the ability to be content with everything that he gave them.
Very well stated, Bailey. I think that's exactly what he means. Yeah, the ability to have absolute peace of mind, not stress, if everything was fine, right? That sure does sound nice. That's what we really do spend our whole lives kind of seeking that, right? You want to get to that point where you're not worrying, you're not stressing, you truly have rest. But as attractive as that sounds, the more you kind of think about this poem, the more you kind of realize that existence can't quite work that way. And the way that Herbert is explaining that is that God holds that back, right? So he kind of continues after that. For if I should, what does he mean for if I should bestow this jewel also on my creature? What's he saying there? If I did what?
Give humans the ability to just be good, just content.
Yeah, like all good. Then he, being man, right, would adore my gifts instead of me and rest in nature, not the God of nature. So both should losers be. We would all lose out because God insists that what needs to exist in that balance is what man needs to always
want more.
And he expresses that a little more specifically. Like in a way, it sounds like God needs to be needed, right? But metaphorically, maybe what Herbert is expressing is the way that we need for God, whether it's in a religious sense or not.
That one line,
seeking peace.
like about,
go ahead.
That one line in that stanza, or just that stanza in general, almost seems selfish in a way, where it's just like he can't go without people worshiping him.
It does. You're right. So I think it's very left open to interpretation there. I don't think the purpose that Herbert is writing this is to depict God as selfish. I don't think that's what he's really getting at, but it does seem like that on the surface. But maybe that's his, well, we need to keep trying to get the theme. Now let's look at the other kind of questions. So the title, the pulley, refers to a simple mechanical device for lifting weights. How does a pulley work? How does it metaphorically express the meaning to the last stanza? So how does the extended metaphor of the pulley, which isn't really, it's the title of the poem, right? But it's never actually really addressed in the poem. It's just kind of an idea he plants in our head with a title. How does that kind of connect to the extended metaphor? And then how does the structure maybe also kind of relate to that idea? That's the big question. Nobody's gonna try to answer that one.
Okay.
Oh, yay!
I have a thought.
Yeah.
So it's the pulley because, like, content-wise, you have man constantly longing for more, and then God, like, wanting their attention. And then, like, not giving them the rest. So it's like a constant back and forth between the two. Mm-hmm. And then I was talking to, I forget who last night about it, like when we were working on it, because she was like pointed it out to me. But like the structure, like the fact that it's A, B, A, B, A is like constantly going back and forth, as opposed to like sonnets or whatever, where it's like A, B, B, A or something, mm-hmm. like constantly going back and forth. And then ending on like the A part is like kind of like God is always like pulling the attention more, like constantly giving, like taking more from man as opposed to like giving more back, yeah. I guess.
Yeah. Or maybe pulling us back, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think you're totally right. The symmetricality of that 5-line stanza, beginning and ending with the A, it puts the other A in the middle, almost like, the actual pulley itself. And it's like this way, too much pleasure, this way, I'm reaching back out again. And it's this balance, right? And it's an endless philosophy. It's a dilemma. It's a catch-22. It's a conundrum, both with humans and with, whatever's in charge, God or whatever you believe, right? Like the actual idea of being a deity becomes like problematic when you really think about it. Like how would you do it? If it's a thinking entity that is God, then how in the world, do you handle that? And he's kind of addressing that conundrum there, right? Okay. I think that mostly covers it. And I want to talk about what else we're going to do before we move on here. Okay, so if you look back at the chapter, now we get into fixed forms, right? And it talks about the difference between the Italian sonnet, which is the 8/6 and the Shakespearean sonnet or English sonnet, which is the 4/4/2/1, sorry. You have a John Keats sonnet on first looking into Chapman's Homer. He's one of the main British Romantic poets. And you have that time of year. It's not really the title. He doesn't have titles. He usually just have numbers, but that is an actual Shakespeare sonnet. There's discussion questions for each one. Don't worry about the vocab stuff. And you don't need to go any further in the chapter. I think we kind of finish up this chapter in class on Monday. So that is your homework. Want to see that by Sunday night. I did put up a post for it. And if you have anything else going on right now, I'll be continuing to grade your FRQs and I'll let you know as I get those done. Okay. Any questions? All right. Pretty good discussion of the difficult poem. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.